institution. And
Very good morning.
it is interesting. Almost around 25 years back, I was also a candidate who attended the refresher course in with the same organization that you are there today, that is HRDC Mysore. It was known as the Academic Staff College, and of course, we are all online now. But I think most of you have seen the Staff College campus. It's a very beautiful campus on the lake in Mysore, the Kukanadi Lake. So it was very nostalgic today morning when I was searching for my refresher course certificate, which I also received from the same organization. I will be talking in English. ನನಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರ್ತದು ಅಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡಲ್ಲ ಇಂಟರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ಬೀನ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈಸೂರು ಫಾರ್ ಸೋ ಲಾಂಗ್. ಕನ್ನಡ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ. If you won't laugh at my Kannada, I don't mind talking to you in Kannada. ನನ್ನ ಸೆಷನ್ ನಾನು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನ ತಗೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಅರ್ಥ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯು ರೇಸ್ ಯೋರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಬೇಕು, you have some doubts. We have got 15 minutes at the end of the session. I'll be happy to interact with you in Kannada or any other southern language. I'm quite conversed with all the southern languages because we are here at RIE Mysore. So I think most of you belong to Karnataka. So Kannada may be the language that you have. Ivattu I am taking a session on because your whole topic is on pedagogies and largely on innovative pedagogies. With the NEP 2020, we've got a lot of talking that's been happening about the changes that are happening in school education, and most of you must be already aware because in your own institutions also you are dealing with NCT's new guidelines and the formation and formulation of ITEP which is coming up. So in this regard, the NEP has had a lot to do with school education, teacher education, and the national curriculum frameworks which have been developed by the ministry for school education, and the new one which is now being released very soon for teacher education also, which they call as teacher preparation. So the ITEP program hereafter, whichever comes in, will include a lot of pedagogies because with changing times and the way the world is moving ahead with education, largely to do with technology that is coming up and the prospects of inclusion, localization of curriculum. With these kind of new aspects, it becomes imperative that we change our pedagogies when it comes to school education, and therefore our teacher preparation programs will also be changing in the same manner. And if I am to understand, you've been going through many new pedagogies in the past, in the days that you have started this program. And today I think is your concluding day, and we are also ending it with two important aspects. One, a pedagogy that has come about, innovative pedagogy, and in relation to an innovative pedagogy, always pedagogies will have a consumerate assessment also, which will be innovative according to the pedagogies. So both those we will be looking at today. So I will be starting this session with I hope you can see it.
Yes, madam.
Is it visible for you on the slideshow?
Madam, it is visible. Slideshow is visible.
Okay. Yeah, today I wanted to introduce something to you. For most of you, you must be quite aware already, what is learning pedagogies and how changing times have created new kinds of pedagogies for us. And one such pedagogy is the thematic learning pedagogy, which has come about. Many of you must have heard this name earlier also. I just want to lay the ground for this pedagogy, and it's been a very it's existed a very long time, the thematic learning pedagogy. largely in anthropological studies and studies which have shown about sociological significance, where they've studied society at large. In those kind of subjects, this particular pedagogy existed earlier. Now we have started taking into education. And one of the important aspects why this now we are realizing the emphasis about it is through this particular part, which I want to start with. Uh, One, that multidisciplinarity, the NEP 2020, I'm sure most of you have been discussing it for a long time. This particular aspect of it has come about from the NEP 2020, which lays emphasis on multidisciplinary education and also holistic development. So the statement that the NEP 2020 makes is like this: a multidisciplinary education for holistic development. So you must be aware now even the ITEP programs are going to be made on multidisciplinary education, and the school curriculum is getting changed accordingly. So they've been talking about how you can integrate the intellectual, emotional, moral capacities of human beings in a more integrated manner. And the curriculum transaction largely requires, facilitating through innovative pedagogies. And coming to what is multidisciplinary education, it is largely to bring together various disciplines together in a more holistic and meaningful way for the learner. And in the school education, of course, it is the NEP talks about it for both school education and the higher education also. And the ITIP that is coming up, the NCT's curriculum framework for teacher preparation also talks about multidisciplinarity and its significance to holistic development. So here, one of the main thing is that we are breaking traditional boundaries between subjects, because if you just think about it, I'm sure most of you have already studied about it in your B.Ed and M.Ed, and the research that you're doing is that the brain, the cerebral response to any kind of learning is not actually according to disciplines. It's not according to subjects, and no longer. And therefore, if you see, when you use any learning that you have taken from any subject, you always use it in an interdisciplinary way or a multidisciplinary way. And even our occupations or our jobs, our professions are multidisciplinary in nature. They are not individual disciplines as such. So keeping this in focus, and the worldwide has moved towards multidisciplinary education, and therefore in India also we realize that it makes sense that we make our courses both in school and in colleges as multidisciplinary. And one of the most effective pedagogies, as I go through today, you will see that there's a lot of research that I'd like to share with you also on thematic learning, which talks about interconnectedness of these disciplines. And it has proven very useful and fruitful both at the education that happens in schools and in higher education. So this kind of pedagogy, it not only fosters interconnectedness, but it also integrates problem solving, because all technology, whether it is in social science or in sciences, you will see that it is more holistic and more interconnected. So it helps us to solve problems, problem solving skills, critical thinking, and creative thinking, communication skills are one aspect that gets developed through the thematic learning pedagogies. This type of learning also allows for more comprehensive understanding, meaningful understanding of knowledge and these subjects. So keeping this as my basis today, I would like to move further just to give you a small glimpse about what is this thematic learning pedagogy. So the thematic learning pedagogy as a pedagogical tool or a pedagogical approach, it is a way of teaching and learning in which many areas of the curriculum get interconnected through a theme. The theme becomes the main emphasis and we connect it through these themes by making very meaningful connections. Now, they're not haphazard connections. They're not just bringing 2, 3 subjects together, but you need to see how topics of those subjects actually get interconnected so that they become more meaningful. And one of the most important definition of a theme would be that it is an idea or a topic which guides the development of certain specific learning experiences. This is something that's very important, giving more emphasis to experiential learning, which comes into the focus. So this is one way in which a theme comes into focus. And one thing interesting about a theme is that it is not about studying subjects in shorter periods, but looking at a theme in an expanse over a large time so that you see what its influence is on various aspects of the life of an individual who is learning. And most importantly, the theme has to be connected to very familiar situations on which new knowledge is going to be built. So these are certain aspects of a theme, and each of these themes comes with immense possibilities for learning for children. And it's very interesting when I show you certain samples of themes, you will see how a theme can easily be built by teachers. And here at my RIE, we and NCRT, through the Nishta and the Diksha platform, we've been giving a lot of training to teachers on how to use thematic learning as a pedagogical tool and how to make themes, build themes at their own levels. So this also paves way to experiential learning, which the NEP is giving emphasis to. A little bit more deeper into what the theme is, you will see that children explore various kinds of learning through discrete concepts as isolate concepts, which is not in subjects, but as processes that take them and place them in real life situations. So there are a lot of activities here which make children understand the textual material which is there, that is the concepts which are there, along with what they can really visualize or contextualize in their own concrete lives. This is how the theme gets done. It is integrated with the child's life, where the child has an opportunity to ask a lot of questions, explore, they can experiment, experience, a lot that happens about the theme. So the thematic pedagogical approach is not just an innovative method, but it of integrating subjects together, but it builds a greater depth of understanding for each individual across various disciplines, just the way that the brain actually processes information. That's why you will see when I'm sharing with you much of the thematic approach or thematic pedagogical tool, researchers have seen how, what is its impact on the brain and how the brain actually processes such kind of themes. Another important aspect is that we want to naturally move away from rote learning. And this is one theme which encourages that. It allows for teachers to work with students and also help them to develop various skills, which I have told you earlier. Reading is one thing that really helps here, rather than just other kind of aspects that come. Thematic learning is also got to do with the way the context gets built and the efficiency among students to contextualize that learning and associate it with their surrounding and real life examples. I'm just giving you one illustration taken right away from one of the teachers who worked in Belgaum on how she made a theme in science, and the subject was in science about human teeth. And the kind of learning that she gave them was about, giving them, trying to mix science with other subjects, such as social sciences also. And this happens to be typically a topic that is taken at the 4th standard level. So this is types of teeth. They learn about the number of teeth that human beings have, the sizes of it, the shapes of teeth, what are the functions of each type of teeth that we have. And she also included it with social sciences and communication or language, where she says, she's asked them to survey the teeth of family members, which included even the elderly, and infants who don't have teeth as yet or have teeth which are falling. So these aspects came into it. The expenditure of the family on teeth care. How much do they spend on going to a dentist? What kind of toothpaste, what is the cost of it in a month that they do? And then she also invited a dentist to talk about food habits that affect quality of teeth, the type of dentures, what cost it is, and also about a social survey about the advertisements on different teeth products and what kind of advertising agents are used for this, like the smile of it and how the teeth becomes the focus of that smile. She went further to give them information from other sources which cause reactions to teeth or teeth enamel discoloration that happens in certain regions, especially where there is mining and chemical discharges which affect it. So if you have a look at it like this, how the thematic approach to learning actually helps children to get engaged in learning, and it allows for creative exploration to happen. So it's very interesting that thematic approach. Very often in education, we constantly keep talking about pedagogies which use inquire, explore, and innovate. And we've gone to the extent of building this in our lesson plans now. So when you're looking at it this way, this is one pedagogical approach that allows the curriculum to lend itself to inquire, explore, and innovate, not just for the teacher in the classroom, but for learning pedagogies that happen outside the classroom by students also. Then coming to the theme and how, what are the steps that we would take in getting for the theme, you will see that you choose a theme first. How do you want it to be interesting for students? How relevant it is for the curriculum that you're taking, the age group that you're taking, the subjects that you would like to build into it, make it more interdisciplinary themes. There's one interesting topic that was taken up by a music teacher in the school, right here at our demonstration school, where music happens to be one important subject for them, especially when they take up music or they want to forego. I'm sure you're quite aware that CBSE provides for doing away with a subject when you are not able to learn it on special grounds of inclusion. So this teacher took up music as one of the subjects that they would take up in the 9th and 10th instead of a particular subject, because here at DMS, we also integrate students from the All India Institute of Speech and Hearing Advisory, which comes where they have hearing impairment and they can do away with the language, or because of their learning difficulty or disability, they can do away with science or math. So music had become one of the topic that was, a theme that was taken up for music as a subject for their evaluation for CBSE. And she beautifully brought about how popular music comes about, what are the, she created units for them on how music is different over a period of time and how it differs in different cultures, even within the same state or across other states, and how there is a historical evidence to music, and how geography plays a musical difference because it's connected with various cultures, the instruments, of what material the instruments are made and how they are preserved in different parts of the world. So this kind of theme actually helped those students to work with music, not just in learning music, but studying music as a subject, which was taken up as a theme. So themes actually, if you see, they allow for past and present connections. They highlight certain issues faced in society, especially when music, she beautifully brought about how music played a very important folk importance when she took them to a village very close by here in order to study how music was taken up. And also how issues, thematic issues like war, poverty, pollution, disease, natural disasters, all this can be built into a theme which allows them to study it. So making the subjects more meaningful to them is what thematic approach is all about. And the next step would be doing the research about it. So in this particular thematic approach, it requires extensive study. That's why reading gets developed in the students. And reading is one emphasis that has been given both in the NEP 2020 and the National Curriculum Framework for School Education and the other two curriculars also which have come up, where knowledge of the teacher and what kind of reading material that the teacher will research and give to the students. So you give a broad-based knowledge, and you also give them opportunities for higher learning abilities that can be built through this kind of reading that comes in. So this research is required by the teacher in order to understand how you build it in. Then designing an essential or many essential questions that you put in, so that higher order thinking, more open-ended questions allowing for intellectual abilities to get into the focus. So it's not just fact-based or concept-based, but allowing them to explore how those facts are relevant, whether they're really true, evaluating that importance and relevance of that information, questioning it through various activities like discussions, defense, debates, which can come in through the thematic instruction that comes in and happens in the classroom. Also, that students learn both from content and critically looking at that content. This is one aspect. And then you have designing the units of instruction that you want to give to children and the activities that you will guide them for essentially answering this. So it not only requires reading, but certain presentation skills, communication skills, and also writing skills, where children will be able to present their thematic learning concepts that they have gained from this. Now, what are the benefits of this kind of thematic approach? It's interesting. Thematic learning has been proven to help students of all ages, including in the colleges and schools and at various backgrounds. And we found that it is much more meaningful than the traditional approaches, which actually lack student engagement. So here you can build connections, not just with the learning material or the content and the student's own abilities to process that information, but connecting it to the real life of the student, because only when you can connect content to their real life, they develop problem solving abilities. They're able to do projects. They are able to identify what kind of tool is required to solve a certain problem. Now, when you're talking about problem solving, it's not that it's at a very high level, but we make sure that the problem solving skills are something of that particular age. That's why I said when I came to the steps, earlier when we looked at the slides on steps, you will see that the teacher needs to do a little bit of research to find out. I'll just give you one small example of how it has been done in the FLN stage, the preschool. In one of the preschools at Bhopal, just this morning I was reading about that research, PhD research submitted by one of the candidates, and she's talking about thematic approach and how beautifully she has brought in the concept of measurement into the lives of the students, and she teaches them what measurement is. And FLN stage, I'm sure you know, is your preschool stage, that is your kindergarten stage. And she takes them on an exploration, and the whole day they're measuring various ways of measurement. And she has taken them on a walk in the morning just around the school, and she's asked them to measure the distance between their classroom to the playground. And she's taught the children how they do a foot measurement. So they're measuring with their foots, and she teaches them how the measurement differs from individual to individual, and they have a small discussion, and they say that it is because of, and the children differ, and they say that the number of steps taken is different. And then she helps them conclude that probably it could be because they have failed to measure certain counts, or the students' responses have been recorded, and she has presented them beautifully. And some of them have come to understand that it could be because of the size of their footwear. So this is also one way of looking at. Hello. Yes. Do I need to stop? Is there a question? Okay. So
we can continue. Somebody is unmuted it since. You continue.
Sorry?
Madam, somebody has got unmuted, it seems.
Okay, so I'll continue. Okay. So this is one way, and it's interesting. She moves on to measure the circumference of trees with a thread that is given to each child. A roll of thread is given, and then they measure trees. And they go around the tree with that thread, and then they measure it. And then she cuts the thread there and she measures it. And she says, why is there a difference? So the children conclude that the size, or, they're talking about the fatness of the tree. She says they call it that the tree is fat, and fat trees have a larger thread measurement, whereas the thinner trees have. So this kind of thematic approach of where you teach measurement, so you can go to that level to a very young age, to a very high age, where you can use thematic approaches to actually engage children in learning concepts which are otherwise quite ambiguous. Measurement can be very ambiguous because it is largely abstract when you're teaching children in the classroom, especially because it is numerical abstractness. So this way, engaging students can make it a lot of fun for them. It can build motivation in them, and it is very intrinsic in them to try to explore and find out answers for certain concepts that can be brought together. So again, I emphasize that it all depends on the teacher being able to develop these kind of, or use these kind of learning pedagogy. Then coming to further making it more useful, knowledge and retention, it helps in that. It allows you to remember a lot of information because you've used it, because it has a hands-on learning in their projects. So obviously, they attach information to what is a context in their own lives. It allows them to retain that information better. And also to develop connections, making it more meaningful for them for applying it to their real lives, attaching it to new ideas, and also trying to use what they learned in one context to what is being learned in another theme. So we call that as inter-theme connections also can be built through this. So thematic units actually help a lot of deeper level of understanding and connections to topics. Basically, they allow for critical thinking and problem solving abilities that a lot of psychologists have spoken about, can be brought about through the thematic. When I share the research with you, you will understand this of how a lot of research work has been done both abroad and in India, largely by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, NCRT itself, and the University of Baroda, where a lot of work is being done now on thematic learning pedagogies. So just as teaching, individual skills, you can bring all of this together through your reading and writing and synthesizing it to bring about deeper critical thinking by using text and the information processing skills of our brain. It also helps in generalization, which I was just now talking to you about, an ability where you can use what you have learned through the context and the topic or the content or the concepts that you have learned. By putting it together in your real life, you make generalizations that there can be, for example, the example that I gave you on measurements. Children concluded that there can be differences in measurements when it is done by man. And when it is done by an instrument, it is quite different. So the teacher actually took an instrument to measure the distance between the classroom and the playground, and converted it into feet and showed them how instrumental measurement is quite different from what we do it otherwise on our own. So this kind of generalization is higher order thinking skills which we want to develop in students at a very early age, and it can be done at any age. The most beautiful part of thematic pedagogy is that it can be used at any age that we are dealing with. So themes actually help students become more aware of the value of whatever they are learning. The concept has a lot of value to them and how it can be used in their environment. This connection is what actually makes them to start loving different parts of the theme, which are the subjects. They begin to explore those subjects in more deeper ways when they start reading more about those subjects. It also helps in creating curiosity. It helps in exploring and combining, investigating, which we are talking a lot in our NEP 2020 about exploratory and experiential learning methods that come in through the thematic pedagogies. They also think for themselves. Where in the theme, when they're supposed to respond, when they're supposed to make measurements, or they're supposed to give presentations, they realize that I didn't have an infant in my family, so I didn't know that there can be individuals without teeth. I have a grandparent who doesn't have teeth. The example that I was giving you about teeth. So this allows them to infer, which is a very high order thinking skill from the concepts or the content that they are doing. They also are able to transfer these ideas and apply it to other aspects of life that it also encourages for teamwork, because when they make presentations, they realize that the content that they dealt with and the kind of experience they had in their activity seems to be quite different from one of the others who had. For example, in this teacher's presentations, where she made about 16 students made a presentation, and she talks about one of the students who actually was able to show the importance of dentures. That means man can create teeth for those who don't have teeth. So this kind of interaction actually builds in learning new information, again, which they did not otherwise get. It focuses us a lot on surroundings, their real life experiences. So if you look at including thematic learning, it can be included in all subjects and through different kinds of ways. This is another example which I got a few days back in one of the research articles that was published in NCRT's journal on how at the FLN stage, very successfully a teacher has used in teaching a theme on animals, and how various, I just put it here for you, how she's used various aspects to bring in thematic learning at a very, very young age of this thing, because there has been a lot of criticism that themes can be used only from a certain age. But now with a lot of research, especially at TIS and NCRT, we've been able to bring in that themes can be used at a very young age to enable, to keep students in the learning process for a longer period. Now, this is the research that I was talking to you about. A lot of research has been done on this particular pedagogy. And it has come to be shown that there is commensurate improvement in student learning outcomes. And there's a lot of evidence of increased teacher and student activity, both scores and high scores, in both activity scores and high score, higher learning scores. It has been proven that this particular research which I'm dealing with was done in TIS. So it's not that these researches have been done just abroad. Thematic learning as a pedagogy has been, a lot of work in this country has been done. In fact, if you would have seen the early NEP 2020 presentations that were done when NEP was launched, the professor who spoke on multidisciplinarity spoke about thematic pedagogy as one of the most researched innovative pedagogies for multidisciplinary study. In fact, now universities have to look into multidisciplinarity, which is coming up in most departments. So here also we will see that multidisciplinarity approach would be thematic in its nature. It also provides data for a more integrated and holistic learning experiences. There is a lot of data to show this. It touches on the emotional, physical, and academic dimensions of students' lives, because you're getting connected, bringing your family into the school, taking your school learning into your home, into the community. So these are aspects that would actually build the connections for the student. And this has been researched. The research also talks about the STEM approach which has come about. This has been done in RI Bhubaneswar and Bhopal, where very extensive research, a national project that was taken up, and it has proven that it helps in problem solving abilities and effectively bringing about these abilities at the college stage of science education in our BSc Ed program, the BSc B.Ed program that we have at NCRT. So thematic approach, in mathematics education particularly, it has emphasized in practical application of mathematical concepts and the development of these skills, it has been useful for teachers who teach mathematics, that is mathematics education, and where they have used real life situations in order to develop these skills. And also the thematic pedagogy offers a very dynamic perspective on qualitative analysis, allowing researchers to understand very complex data, especially when you want to understand what are the experiences of students, especially adult students, at your B.Ed or your M.Ed or your BSc B.Ed, MSc M.Ed, which courses which we have integrated, in trying to understand how they actually amalgamate subject content and how it is important. Why do you study these subjects in combination when you're studying it? So those qualitative experiences can be very well gathered when you're using a thematic approach. Then coming to the newly released National Curriculum Framework for School Education also talks about directives. One of the directives that now straight away the government of India has given is about trying to at least start with social sciences, mandatorily bringing it in the form of themes. And science at the middle school stage, where science would be more amalgamated, trying to see the combination of it through thematic approaches. This is something that we have been following for quite some time in our country, and it is not new. Instead of focusing on theoretical learning alone of subjects as history or as economics or as civics or as geography separately, if you build it together, what happens to these subjects? So the whole title of the subject changes, and also the topics, the nature of the topics and the way the topics are dealt is changing. I'll give you the examples of this in the coming slides as we move. So it actually offers for a variety of contexts for these subjects to be used, not studying history as history alone, but looking at history from a perspective of geography, or looking at history from a perspective of economics. We all know that when we studied about the Mughal Empire, when we studied about Akbar, we did study about Akbar's various policies that made him so firm. Most of them were economic policies, most of them were political policies, and most of the wars that he won or didn't win had to do with the geographical aspects of it. So trying to amalgamate these into themes is something that actually enables students to understand and to connect with that content that is there. So building in a lot of these contexts will actually enable them. There is one subject about teaching rivers in geography, and the teacher talks about water crisis. The teacher also talks about disputes that are happening today because of rivers, water pollution. Actually, the subject, if you look at the content of rivers in geography in class 8, you will see that it has got nothing to do with this. But when you connect it with these aspects, children begin to understand that what I'm studying in the text is something that's happening around me. So we try to build in themes, and now we are going a little more deeper in trying to make your text material more thematic. So this is one example of social science, where they're talking about what is a theme, and then I'm going to go further into it in social science. So a theme is any rich. This is something that you need to know. The definition of a theme is basically rich, complex human phenomenon that pulls together many aspects of multidisciplinarity that comes in. So here, you would actually see it gives a better understanding of the phenomenon. It can bring in so many subjects together: geography, political science, economics, philosophy, psychology, anthropology. In the example that I'm going to give you, which is of class 9, 10, 11, 12, you'll see how the theme has actually been brought into coherence so that you can experience it. It is also useful because you need to understand that themes give you an opportunity to look at different characteristics across different levels of human aggregation. That means we are all aggregate in our living. I hope we all understand this when we say, I am not alone in Mysore, or I am not alone in the RI campus. The way I've connected with you across Karnataka or all along Mysore, or if we had the same program across different countries, this aggregation which technology is bringing us together is something that we need to realize and help our children to understand that they are going to live in a world which is going to be an aggregate world. Aggregation is bringing together many aspects which are local, national, and global. This is something that the subject or the theme has to bring in together. That is why you bring in, where I gave you an example of rivers, the teacher is talking about water pollution across the world. The teacher is also talking about, how the Arctic is melting away, and how the Antarctic animals are getting affected by the kind of water that is. So river water may be just about what you're talking in your own region or your country, but you're connecting it to various other aspects. This human aggregation is very essential in making children understand. Because if you're talking about global citizenry, if you're going to talk about how the globe is just a small village trying to connect the child to so many aspects, it becomes important and imperative to start very early for them to understand that we are actually global citizens and not just belonging to one nation. So you're talking about these aspects and using the lens of relevant disciplines that can bring them together. Then, we are talking about one aspect here where the human phenomenon is chosen as a theme. It has to have a lot of complexity because just now when I gave you about the flow of rivers, it's not just geography. It talks about so many disciplines that can be brought together and how that can be contextualized to your immediate environment of the student, and how it can actually focus on connecting it to what the subject needs. Now we need to understand that at every stage, I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to look at the curriculum frameworks which were made based on the NEP 2020. I'm sure as teacher educators, you're going to take it forward in your own colleges and with your students in trying to understand the curriculum framework. The curriculum frameworks talk about curricular goals for each different stages, and those curricular goals are largely interdependent. They are interdisciplinary in their nature. So this is one particular pedagogy that allows you to achieve your curricular goals more easily. What I was talking about, cutting through different levels, this is one important aspect in thematic approach, where you are not just restricted to a local, but you also give ideas about the regional, national, and global, largely international perspectives, the interconnectedness of every theme that happens across the world. This happens, or this takes place in a more expansive way. And there are a lot of researchers that have given us what kind of weightage should be given for the theme. And so they've spoken about how the theme, actually 20% of it is your local importance that you give to a theme, trying to build more familiarity. It could be historical, it could be geographical, socio-political, economic. In social science, when you are giving the text materials or you're teaching in the classroom a particular topic, then you have to ensure that in the thematic approach, about 20% of it is from your local, so that the child, and it starts always with the local, because, in the principles of learning, proximo distal, where you learn with something that's closer. You always teach the child about the family, the markets, the post offices, and all those things. And then you move on to a national level or the regional level, and then the national. So that kind of proximo distal weightage is given. 20% is for the local, and 30% comes in identifying interconnections and similarities and differences of the local with the regional. In Mysore, this is happening. In the southern region, what happens? Or in Karnataka, these are some of the aspects with respect to water or water crisis, river. What is happening in the region that is happening? This is the kind of markets that we have in Karnataka. What is the market situation in the southern region? Industry and so many other aspects that come in, and how do you connect it with multiple states and the entire state itself? Then you move on to the national level, where you're talking about increased diversity. And always thematic is one that unites through the theme, but brings in the essence of diversity. remember the foot measurement of that teacher? There was diversity there. There are differences over there. So there is a lot of richness in that. And so here you're talking about cultural heritage and trying to bring about one aspect of Indian-ness in it, but it has got diversity. So the various engagements that are happen are, you give it a weightage of 30%. And again, the global level is about 20%, where you're talking about pluralism, you're talking about diversity in its thing, and still you are a significant aspect of that diversity. So it gives you a complete worldwide view. So we have tried to use it, first of all, in social science by NCERT, and we took it from other foreign curricula that happened. And there are a lot of states, including Karnataka, which has started taking up the NCERT text materials and the content that's coming up in the curriculum now. So you will see that how the TLMs also change. You try to include materials which are both local and non-local, which are regional, national, and global. I would like to give you a few social science examples of the NCFSC and how it has brought about. Now, when you're talking, instead of talking about subjects as history or geography or economics or political science or psychology, we have tried to bring in through certain themes where the entire gamut of certain experiences and content is also drawn that way. So you will see that there is this particular book in the social sciences which talks about people and cultures in school. So here what happens is it talks about people all around us, what shapes their lives, what are the factors that shapes our lives. It could be the history of that place. It could be the markets of that place, the price rise of that place, the inflation in that place, also the geographical area that comes in, how much of water resources, what kind of land you have there, what is the political scenario over there. So all this helps you to build a kind of society, and it helps you to understand about the lives of those people in a more socio-cultural manner. What are the languages, the festivals, the practices, what kind of clothing, because it's in a geographical area. And every time you look at it, you're also looking at the regional and the national and the international perspectives of that particular aspect of people and cultures living together. So it has got various aspects to it. It could be about clothing, livelihood, people, the cultural interactions that happen. And there are a lot of questions that are raised over here. You'll see that most of these questions are raised. I told you in the beginning, themes happen when you raise questions. What do you want to fulfill from it? That is why it is one of the tools which propagates for research. And that's why it's taken up in most PhD studies also. So all the answers to these questions cannot be sought in isolation. They have to happen in conjunction with the subjects that I told you earlier, whether it is geography, history, economics, culture, psychology. So this is one example. Another example which is given very beautifully on livelihoods of people and the interdependence, their day-to-day activities of the people, how it's connected to their livelihoods. What kind of livelihood do they have? This is more of economics. It talks, but it amalgamates with the society, the kind of practices they had earlier, how is it different in different places, and what kind of procedures are followed, what kind of political facilities are made for them, the government, what kind of facilities are given to them, what are the relationships in these markets. It's not only studied at the local level, but also at the regional and the international level. So finally, what you do is that, all of this has to be understood most in the context of culture, the aspirations of people, the physical environment, the political environment. And so therefore they called it as livelihoods of people. This is another textbook that is getting made in this way. The third one, which you normally talk as geography, is not just geography, because geography by itself, the rivers by itself, the mountains by itself are of no meaning to us unless you get connected to the geography that is happening there. So they called it as human environment, interconnectedness and interaction, and how beautifully the physical environment that exists gets integrated with the social. That means my connect with rivers, what is my use with the mountains or the landscapes that you see. So the natural world in which the child grows up, how is it actually connected with the life of what we live, our behaviors, our practices, our markets, our livelihoods? How is it all dependent? Our transportation, how is it different in different countries and in our own place where we live? And the cultural factors that affect the preservation of this natural environment or the physical environment. How we worship these physical environments, all those aspects also come into being. So these questions are some of the key components of understanding human environment interaction and human and the environment relationship that exists. This is also one textbook that is being brought about based on thematic pedagogy. The last one, which I'll be concluding with this, is how the most important aspect, that is political aspect, is so connected with us. You know, thinking that something is happening right there in Bangalore in some way is not going to connect me in my school here is a misnomer. Or my subject, which I'm studying on democracy, or I'm studying about something else, is not connecting me with the rest of what is happening in the environment, is a misnomer again with children. So this particular textbook, which has been brought about, is Democracy and Governance, and how human settlements from the past is very political in nature. The multiple factors that have influenced us being together in society, and what kind of political order existed in the past, and how our society is very stable because of this political order, and how what are the democratic features of the past, and how it is moving on with democratic governance and political structure that is happening today, which involves everybody to live together in coexistence as human beings together in more harmony. What are the political or cultural forces that can break away this political structure, or that can keep or interconnected? How political structure actually affects the economic well-being of myself, you know, when I am in a particular place. How the various, the politics of the world, the governance of the world, the economics of, and the economic relationship with other countries is again affected by political nature. So this is again a text material which talks about technology, economy and politics and sociology that comes together. So these are various ways by which, you know, researches that were conducted through the thematic pedagogy brought about the idea that you can teach, you can actually give ready-made themes through your textbooks to teachers in order to bring it. And with this, I'd like to conclude the session on this particular topic that was given to me. I would like to start with your discussions, if any. Now it's open for questions.
Good morning, ma'am. May I?
Good morning. There's something in the chat box also. Let me just.
May I, ma'am? May
Yes,
I ask
please.
question?
Yeah, please tell your name also so that.
Ma'am, Dr. Shalini,
Yes,
Principal,
please.
Maitri College of Education.
Yeah.
Ma'am, what are the new changes in using teaching learning materials because of the influence of the technology? We find lot of changes. Can I know what are the innovative changes that has happened in the teaching learning materials which are used in the classroom?
Yeah. See, one thing
Thank
is
you, ma'am.
that the last four which I showed you, when you're talking about teaching learning materials, okay. One thing I just, because it's good that Dr. Shalini raised this question. I want to tell you that pedagogy, you know, any innovative pedagogy has its influence on teaching learning materials. That's why I started with a pedagogy where, you know, the way the teacher teaches it, and then I moved on to teaching learning materials. One important aspect of an innovative pedagogy, whether you're using technology or not using technology, and you're using more experiential when you're at the lower age, is that when you can integrate it into your text material or through the activities that you're giving to them in the teaching learning materials. One example that I can give you right away, Dr. Shalini, is that, you know, when you're talking about surveys, You're telling the child, let us say that you want to use it, integrating technology, and you're giving a project to a student. It could be science, it could be social science. It is not required that the child has to go to the individual to collect the material. You can use technology by connecting the child to where that material has to be connected. Maybe, you can use your telephone, you can teach the child how to create a link and get those people on board for a discussion which could be recorded for the project. So we're talking about integrating technology with new pedagogical teaching learning materials. It has to be applications. It could be more integrating it in their own regular activities that are happening, rather than trying to tell them these are different ways by which, or giving them just the names of those technologies. That is one of the most important aspects that we need to keep, especially because we are, all of us here are dealing with behavioral sciences. We are talking about teacher preparation. So there you need to engage them more with the technology they themselves are using, just the way that we are using it now.
Thank you, ma'am. Apart from technology, I am asking. Apart
Yes.
from technology, previously we were using two-dimension, three-dimension model.
Yes, apart
and
from technology, yeah, okay, I understood it as how you use technology. I'm sorry. Now, when you're apart from technology, when you're trying to use it, you could connect the child more with real life experiences, taking them on more visits. In this classroom, if you can bring in more materials, where the child is going to read, it need not be only your textbook. The latest information that is coming on the television or your newspaper clippings or the articles that you're reading, where your material which is there in the text is also there at it. Example, you're talking about elections in a particular topic, and if you can just show children about what is happening in elections, a recording of it, what happened in the last elections, or if you can actually go send them out or bring them, asking them to bring the newspaper clippings of it. It need not be only through technology, but other source of materials that can be brought into the classroom. It could be models, teaching aids, whatever we have been doing in the past. But what NEP is talking largely about is about connecting them with real teaching learning materials that they can lay their hands upon, rather than the teacher alone doing it. That is the most important thing about an innovative pedagogy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Only the teacher needs the interest to make children to get the information, madam.
You're right. Is it Dr. Chandrakala, if I'm reading it correctly? Yes. Yes, it requires innovations. And I also want to share with you that most of the researches which we have been looking at, I'm one of those who's connected deeply with this particular innovative pedagogy, that we're using it because we want to change the textbooks based on this research also, is that it lowers the burden on the teacher to take teaching material into the classroom. It lowers the time of teaching in the classroom because you're making it more engaging. You're making it more exploratory. So your class is where there's a little lesser burnout for the teacher in terms of energy that the teacher has to actually use in the classroom. It just requires the teacher to be more innovative in bringing in more innovative materials into the classroom and using it. And when we're talking about innovations, I also want to stress with all of you that innovation is not something that you bring, not some big jars, high sounding materials. They're very simple local materials that can be brought into the classroom, which teachers can use it, and which I think in our own teaching practices, in our internship programs, we need to lay emphasis with our teacher students, student teachers, to start using in their classrooms.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Ma'am, may I add another question, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Share views. Ma'am, thematic learning as per NEP 2020, I heard from BO office that they are science teacher, arts teacher, all get together. They are going to teach the same concept with different dimension. Am I right, ma'am?
Yes, yes, yes. And it won't be that all three will go into the class together, but they will sit together to make the theme. Okay, and they will share the theme as to, in my class I'll be doing this part and you will connect it with this. So it's that kind of sharing that comes into it. Now, this is what is proposed. To make it easy, we started with one subject which I showed you now, social science, where you actually, teachers of history, geography, economics, political science in a higher class, 9th and 10th, sat together and made it. It can be done at the lower classes with art, music, the library teacher and the social science and science teacher, mathematics teacher, sitting together, and certain topics that can be brought together for an amalgamation. You're quite right, Dr. Chandra.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Any other views that you would like to share or your experiences? Anything else that any of you would like to add? Something that I might have missed upon? I don't know.
Wonderful.
Sorry, Dr. Chandrakala.
Wonderful explanation, madam.
Thank you, thank you. Neevu Kannadalanu helbodu namge nange artha agattu. If any of you feel that you'll feel comfortable in Kannada, you could please go ahead. It will help the others also understand it.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅದು ಥಿಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಥೀಮ್ ಇಂದು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದೇರ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಟೈಮ್ ಅವರು ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಎಂಗೇಜ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Yes. That's why it's called.
What I observed.
Yes, very true, because adu purti school time ನೀವು use ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ನೀವು busy ಇರಬಹುದು ಏನೋ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ, you can use it for the entire school time.
ಅಲ್ಲ, during in the house, during their free time also they will work about this matter.
Yes, it keeps them engaged. Connecting the school with the family, with the home is also another way of doing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other? Otherwise, can we? Yeah.
Yes, madam, no problem. No
Yeah,
problem.
can we close the session? I don't know who's the technical person here.
Manjula madam, I can join the second session only, madam, at 11:45.
Okay, so can we leave now, Dr. Rajkumar?
Excuse
You
me,
can
ma'am.
leave.
Hello.
Yes, we are looking for somebody from HRDC
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, then join 11:45, ma'am.
at 11:45, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.